You're thinking about moving to Fort Lauderdale? Well, there's a couple of things that you're going to need to know. Wouldn't you agree, Kevin?
I would. Basically the pros and cons of living in Fort Lauderdale.
And there's quite a few. So,
let's get after it right now.
Right.
This is Kev. What's up, everybody?
Hi, and I'm Suze. We're the Morris Group.
And welcome to Living in Fort Lauderdale with Kev and Suze. So, this is your first time on the channel and you want to know everything about living in Fort Lauderdale. Living, sleeping, eating, drinking, breathing, playing, fishing, all the kind of fun stuff. And even if you just want to lay in a hammock. So, we're the place to go. This is, you tap on the subscribe button to check out all the videos that are coming out and get notified as soon as we drop the next one. So, and you'll click the bell, you get notified. So, honestly, we get so many calls, so many emails, and so many texts each day. You know, Suzanne, it's amazing, all the folks that are interested in all the things that are going on down here.
Yes, and relocating to Fort Lauderdale.
And you know what? Honestly, we love it. We absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about, if you've been thinking about moving anywhere else close to Fort Lauderdale, just give us a call, let us know, shoot us a text, send us an email, drop it, give us a call. It doesn't matter. Days, nights, weekends, we got your back and we got you covered.
So what about the great weather in Fort Lauderdale,
So
Jeff?
basically, I mean, how can you go wrong? Folks call this living in paradise, and you know what? For the most part, they're right. I mean, if you love nice weather, that's consistently nice, okay, lots of sunlight, okay, don't mind a little bit of rain in the afternoon. Okay?
So what would you say the average temperature is?
I would say probably somewhere between 75 and 80 degrees. I mean, which is great for the winter months. Especially for the winter months when we have family and friends that come to visit us. But I mean, the nice thing about it is that you get a chance to get out and be outside all the time. I mean, what is it? I read somewhere, Susan, that was like 3,000 hours of sunlight every year here in Fort Lauderdale, South Florida. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, even if you have a couple minutes of rain every day, 3,000 hours of sunlight is just absolutely amazing.
Now, personally, one of the things that I like the best, I like to participate in water aerobics. And in the winter months, when I have my friends and my girlfriends that live up north, say New York, or friends that live in Ohio, I'm out in the pool, outdoors, doing water aerobics. And that's one of the things that I like to do. So if that's something that you're interested, Fort Lauderdale would be a great place to do that.
And while Suzanne's out there doing the water aerobics and stuff like that, and the nice sun and stuff like that, I'm letting the husbands of her friends know exactly how nice it is down here in South Florida while they're freezing up in Ohio and in Virginia and in New York and New Jersey and everything else. So, just kidding, folks, but basically, yeah.
Oh, well, and then maybe you're attempting to do what?
Actually, what I'm doing is okay, yeah, that's being generous, saying I'm attempting to play golf. Actually, folks, AT&T follows behind me and basically buries cable after all my divots. But other than that, and my kids have told me that I don't slice when I hit the golf ball, it's a U-turn. The safest place to be when I'm playing golf is in front of me, not behind me, not beside me. But anyhow.
Yeah, the weather is absolutely astounding.
You know, while we did talk about the weather being a pro, okay, in all fairness, the weather is a little bit bipolar, okay? There are some times when we do get a half an hour, 15 minutes to a half an hour rain, pretty much every day of the week, but that's okay. And as they say down here, if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes, it'll change. But one of the things that you need to be aware of, okay, is that we are in what is known as the hurricane zone. And exactly what happens is from June through the beginning of June through roughly the end of November,
right.
We are subject to hurricanes. We've been through them before. We'll be through them again. A little bit of preparedness. But for those of you that are not used to hurricanes or not used to this kind of wind, this kind of rain, it can be a little bit daunting. If you're like us that have come from, you know, Georgia and Virginia and Ohio, where we've had tornadoes and stuff, you're kind of used to it. Think of a hurricane as a very, very wet tornado that goes on for about a day and a half.
Well, I think a lot of people are familiar with the hurricanes. I mean, recently over on the West Coast, we had Hurricane Ian.
That's very true. That's very, very true. But again, I mean, if you take preparation, okay, and you know what's going on, you don't basically run out like everybody else does with your hands above your head, screaming and yelling, okay, and looking for meat, bread, eggs, and toilet paper. Okay, you'll be safe. Because don't forget, during the hurricane parties. Now, my key supplies for hurricane party are basically a bottle of Patron Silver and a couple of Cohiba cigars, and I'm set for the hurricane.
Oh, and well, don't forget about the generators. That is something.
This is true. Actually, that is true. And all joking aside, I mean, if you're living in an area, wherever you're living, you want to make sure that if you're in a single family home, that you are close. If you can swing it, get a generator in there to get hooked up. If you can, if you're in a townhouse or a condo, okay, then make sure you're close to a power grid that is with power lines that are buried as opposed to ones going overhead. You'll find that the power outages will be much less significant, much less severe, and much shorter in durations. But again, I mean, you got to take some of the good, you got to take a little bit of bad with a lot of the great good. So weather can be a little bit of a con if you're not ready for the hurricanes. Also, for a period of time in the summertime, you know, it's basically, what is it? June and July and August are basically every day's a bad hair day, huh?
Yes, every day's bad hair day.
So it gets a little bit humid in the middle in the high time of the summer. So other than that, it's great. Actually, here in Fort Lauderdale and surrounding areas, folks really don't take life too serious. I mean, it's very, very laid back. In some cases, I've actually been referred to as basically a flip-flop community. And that's more from the standpoint of the kind of shoes you wear as opposed to people's opinions on things.
Well, that's true. I mean, we've also heard that sometimes people will say that Floridians don't always dress up and we're always casual, but the weather does lend to that.
Okay. You know, and again, in addition to the great weather, which we've already talked about, I mean, you have the proximity to the beach. I mean, you know, worst case scenario here in South Florida, you're a half an hour, 45 minutes from the beach. So I mean, even on a bad traffic day, which we'll talk about later, it's still a worthwhile trip to the beach. Okay, employment. Is you know, reasonable employment opportunities down here, in addition to the travel and tourism, which has been the boon of South Florida and Fort Lauderdale. And you have technology, you have finance, you have healthcare. So there's a lot of options in there for people to kind of make the lifestyle a little bit easier to live.
Well, of course, and then you have all of the remote learning that lends to the lifestyle.
Well, that's true. I mean, basically, you know, since there's been a shift in people's work habits anyhow, a lot of people work remotely. I mean, people have found that it's just as easy to work remotely from a beachfront condo or a beachfront place down here in Fort Lauderdale than it is from working from a cul-de-sac in a little city up in the Midwest or up in the Northeast, where your weather goes basically from hot to cold, cold to hot, okay, and everything else. So
honestly, why wouldn't you?
I mean, hey, you know, it works for us, and a lot of folks are coming down here to do this. So the other thing too is that there's so much to do down here. I mean, not just in and around Fort Lauderdale, the Fort Lauderdale area. I mean, you got the renovation of the Hard Rock Cafe and Hotel and Casino. Here down in Hollywood,
which is a hot spot.
Oh, definitely a hot spot. The other thing that you have going on is you're only a couple hours from Orlando, Disney World, Epcot, and Tampa, which has Busch Gardens and all the other kind of attractions.
Disney World, yeah.
Disney World and whatnot. I mean, again, if you play golf, not like me who tries to play golf, but if you play golf, okay, if you plenty of options for playing golf. Okay, fishing, you can definitely go fishing down here. I mean, there's all kinds of deep sea fishing that goes out of Fort Lauderdale. There's reef fishing that goes out. There's surf fishing that goes out. A couple of the cities around Fort Lauderdale have piers that you can go out and go fishing on too. So I mean, there's all kinds of great things. And what is it? At last count, honey, there's like 4,500 restaurants or so in this area, and they're opening up more and more restaurants and more diverse restaurants all the time down here.
Yeah, very eclectic. Just about any type of food you like. As a matter of fact, we had the Korean food, the Korean barbecue.
That's true, and it was fantastic. Actually, we had it at the Hard Rock Casino. It was terrific. So again, it's just very, very laid back. It's a great lifestyle. It's very conducive to relaxing and just kind of, you know, you get along by going along, or you go along by getting along, get along by going along. Whatever, you guys know what I mean. So one of the cons is that there are a lot of people who visit Fort Lauderdale each year. As a matter of fact, I think at last count they average like 23 million visitors every year.
Right, yeah.
Now that's not including the high point of the folks that were migrating down here to Fort Lauderdale down to Florida, and South Florida, and Fort Lauderdale from the north, which I think at one point hit like 1,000 people a month coming down here.
Yeah, I recall the same thing.
I mean, they were selling their homes. The taxes were higher everywhere else. I mean, Florida doesn't have any state income tax, which is kind of a cool thing.
Right. Our state was open. You could still go out.
Exactly. The state was open. The kids were going back to school. Things were actually going very, very well. So, and the other thing is that you really don't get much of an off season here, okay? Because a lot of folks, most folks that are here, they're here by choice. Okay, they made a decision to come down here, so the big folks are coming down here now. And it means, one of the things it does mean is that you're dealing with tourists a lot more. You're dealing with people that are more transient. But, okay, personally, for us, we love it. It adds to the diversity. It adds to a lot of the things that are going on. But still, if you're not used to crowds, okay, and we'll talk about traffic a little bit too, which is in there, kind of in there with the crowds. But again, I mean, there are a lot of folks that visit here on a regular basis.
Yeah, say for example, like when we go to dinner during the high season, usually a lot of times you're not able to just walk in and get a seat. You may have to wait 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. You know, what you like to do or what we like to do is we might go to the bar, we meet new people. So you may not get a seat right away.
So, but you know what? Again, you know, with the weather as nice as it is, and there's usually outdoor seating and outdoor bars and outdoor things to do. It's, you know, again, it's terrific. But again, I just want to make sure that everybody understands. Okay, there are a lot of people that come down to this area. So, and it is something that you need to be cognizant of when you're looking at making a decision on where you want to relocate to, whether it's a permanent relocation, or whether you're just thinking about coming down here for a couple months out of the year when the weather is not favorable for you up where you're from.
Right. We just wanted to give you the facts.
Right. True. Okay. So now, we mentioned taxes before, okay, and we need to. I feel the need to kind of elaborate upon that. There are two types of taxes that actually kind of work in your favor, or I should say the lack of taxes that kind of work in your favor. Okay. Number one, first and foremost, is Florida is one of the few states in the country that doesn't charge a state income tax. Okay, for many folks, us included, that was almost like getting a pay raise coming down here. So I mean, you're not giving away 13 to 15 to 18%. I think I read somewhere some of the states are upwards of 18% now from the state tax rate.
Yeah, it's in New York, right?
Yeah, New York, or one of the states out on the West Coast. Okay. The other thing that's really interesting and really neat is that for your primary residence down here in Florida, okay, you get what's called you can apply for and get what is called a homestead exemption. And what that is, kind of in a nutshell, is that if this is your primary residence, they'll exempt you from $25,000 a person, $50,000 if the home is owned jointly. Okay, that it kind of reduces the value, the assessed value of the property upon which your taxes are based on. Now, certain parts of that are exempt, certain parts of it are not exempt from that reduction. But again, it's something that really kind of helps to kind of keep the property taxes reasonable and in check, and at somewhat of a lower level, especially compared with some of the other areas that we've heard about, like New York City, Boston. We got some folks that came down from Boston looking at properties down here, and what they were telling us they were paying for for properties that were, what they were telling us they were paying for properties that were of similar size up there. I mean, it was like, oh my God, you guys got to be kidding. It's just, you know.
Unfortunately, they weren't.
Unfortunately, they weren't, and that's not taking any shots anywhere else. It's just that, you know, it's expensive to live, and there are other areas of the country, Florida being one of them, from a property tax perspective, that can be a little bit more reasonable than where you are right now.
Well, that's true. And if you're looking for a second home or you know, a resident or something like that,
right?
That's important to know.
Exactly.
Nice tip.
Exactly. The cost of living. The cost of living in Fort Lauderdale is exceptionally high. As a matter of fact, if you kind of compare it to the rest of the country, it's about 40% higher than most of the rest of the country, okay? And in some cases, there are things that are a little more reasonable, but for the most part, one of the things that is higher is the cost of home ownership.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you think it's so much higher?
Well, I mean, basically, a lot of people want to come down here, okay? So there's a...
So they want to come here or to South Florida?
Well, they want to come South Florida, but they also want to come to Fort Lauderdale too. So it's a question of supply and demand. The demand for homes down here is in many cases greater than the supply. Okay, we've been dealing with that for the last couple of years. I mean, at one point in time, the supply of available properties on the market was so low that basically the MLS was almost you heard crickets on the MLS system. But essentially, what happens is the average list price of a home is about $550,000 here in Fort Lauderdale. That's about 33 to 34% above the assessed value of the home. So I mean, it is significant, and you know, in many other parts of the country, you can use the assessed value, i.e., the value upon which your real estate taxes are based on. You can use that as kind of a barometer as to what the value of your home is worth. Down here in South Florida and Fort Lauderdale, that's not always it's not always the case. So you know, and in some cases, folks may find it may be a little bit better option to come down here, rent for a couple of months or 6 months, okay, to kind of feel your way around, see what areas are looking, see what kind of areas you can afford, see what kind of areas fit into your lifestyle, so on and so forth.
Okay, so let's just as of today, what do you think the rental market is going for?
The rental market right now is tight. I mean,
and this is in October.
This is October of 2022. Okay,
right.
The rental market is tight. Now, some of that is artificially created. Okay, and some of that is just a function of being at the high season in an area that is typically very population bound in this area. From the standpoint of the market itself, I mean, we've just gone through a period of COVID and all the pandemic, all the shutdown, and basically people were finding out that they couldn't rent, they couldn't even leave their country. In fact, some of our friends from Canada, basically, we hadn't seen them in a year and a half, and we were very happy to see them coming down. Okay, but they had tried. They couldn't even rent their places out to come down there and look because basically nobody was coming down here. Okay, so a lot of places dried up. The rental market down here is very tight. It's just there's just not a whole lot of places to rent. Okay. The other thing is that as a result of some of the things that were done to mitigate the impact on renters, on people living down here, okay, there were a lot of owners that were renting out that found that basically that there were people living in their homes that were renting that didn't pay for 6 months, 12 months, even as much as 18 months. Okay?
Yeah.
And a lot of those folks, they still had to pay their mortgage, they still had to pay the taxes, still had to pay the fees, the homeowners, the insurance, the association fees and stuff like that. So what ends up happening is that they've come down to the point to where it used to be, when we first came down here, it was basically first month's rent and a security deposit. Couple of months later, maybe a year later, it came down first month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposit. Now you're looking at places that want sometimes as much as a full year's rent up front, okay, or at least 6 months rent up front, separate from the security deposit, okay. Now, folks, when you start looking at that, okay, sometimes it actually makes more sense for you to go and buy and live in it for a year or two, and decide if you want to rent it out, okay. But by the time you're forking over a year's worth of rent to somebody, I mean, that's the same as a down payment in many cases, or even more depending upon where you're living. So I mean, it is the cost of living in here, down here can be high. Okay?
That's true.
But again, think about what you're getting.
So we're experts in the Morse group, so if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to us.
Definitely. Whether if you're looking to buy, you're looking to rent, we can help you out. Suze, there are endless beach options down here.
Do tell.
I will. There's probably about 23 miles of beach property here in the Fort Lauderdale area.
And it's absolutely gorgeous.
And there's like 300 miles of waterways. I mean, there's canals, there's lagoons, there's lakes, there's rivers, there's creeks, there's streams. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out here. But there's a multitude of beach options. I mean, you can go anywhere from the Broad Walk at Hollywood Beach, where you have all that kind of beaches going out that goes all the way out. One of the widest and largest beaches here in the Fort Lauderdale area, to going all the way up as far north as Deerfield Beach with the Blue Wave certified beaches. I mean, there's just all kinds of beach options down here, and basically you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. In fact, rumor has it, I don't know where they are, but rumor has it there's even a couple of clothing optional beaps. If that's of interest to you, shoot us a text, drop us an email. We'll certainly look into it for you. Not really sure where they are myself. Then again, I don't know many people that want to see me.
It's true, but with the beach options, you know, if you're young and you're single, Fort Lauderdale Beach is absolutely wonderful. There's a lot to do, a lot of nightlife going on.
True.
Now, if you're a little bit older like ourselves, which one of our favorite places is Lauderdale by the Sea, and they're right next to each other. So it really depends on what you're looking for. How would you say Deerfield Beach?
Deerfield Beach is kind of a very family-oriented beach. It's a very safe beach. It's got a wonderful pier out there that you can go out and take a look at. Then you have Pompano Beach, which has a brand new pier and a whole new beachfront that's been renovated. So there's a lot of different options around here. But basically, with 23 miles of actual beachfront, oceanfront beaches, you have more than enough things to choose from and more than enough options to check out.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the water sports.
Well, I mean, basically, if you, for example, okay, if you go to Lauderdale by the Sea, which is kind of known as like the scuba capital of South Florida. Okay, and what they did basically is they put in they made a couple of reefs down there that you can go out to. I mean, you can drop some tanks on, or even go snorkeling if you want to. You know, it's a short swim, maybe 100 yards out to where the first reef. And there's a couple of man-made reefs out there, and one of them is actually made and is created by sunlight coming down that helps the reef to grow. Folks go out there all the time. As a matter of fact, a couple of times walking through Lauderdale by the Sea, I've actually seen folks carrying their scuba tanks out there. Go a little further north and a little further south, you see folks fishing off of the beach. I mean, and
they've got great fishing.
They got great fishing. I mean, and we're not talking about bringing in little teeny fish like this. Okay, we're talking about folks that are bringing in big grouper. Okay, and fish that they're happy to take somewhere and have them cut up. Okay, for that.
And there are restaurants when you can.
By all means.
Yeah, the fish that you caught, they'll prepare for you.
Downtown Fort Lauderdale, you can go out and you can actually go out and charter a boat and go out to do some deep sea fishing if that's what you want to do.
Jet skiing.
Jet skiing is out there. Was it parasailing?
Parasailing.
What do they call it? Wind skiing, windsurfing. Okay, that's a little much for me. I would have done it a couple of decades ago. But windsurfing, I mean, all this kind of stuff. So there's a ton of things that you can do. And then you can do like I do and basically just park your carcass on the beach in a chair with a book, okay, and an adult beverage, and basically
and you like to people watch.
And I do like to people watch. So, but hey, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. So whatever your definition of fun is on the beach, chances are you're going to be able to live it here.
Oh, well, that, and you also got that new metal detector.
That's true. I do have the metal detector. I can walk around finding cool stuff on the beach. So
he's still waiting for that big find. I'm
still waiting for the big find, but hey, when we find it, we will let y'all know. The city serves as kind of an international traffic hub. One of the things you'll figure out once you're moving down here, basically in Fort Lauderdale, is that you're pretty much close to travel international, pretty much anywhere. You have 3 airports that are all within 100 miles of each other. Starting from the south, you have Miami at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, and then going north, you have West Palm Beach International Airport. Now, between those 3 airports, okay, you can pretty much get access to over 40 countries throughout the world on a daily basis. So folks are coming in all the time. Folks are coming in all the time. Folks are going out all the time. It's really kind of it really makes for a very eclectic mix. But the reality is that if there's anywhere that you want to go and any place you need to start for a jump off point, I mean, folks fly out of Miami, they go to South America, Central America all the time. We have a lot of friends that do that. A lot of folks that we know go out to Europe, okay, and even out to Africa, going out of Fort Lauderdale International Airport and going out of West Palm Beach. So I mean, there's all kinds of places and all kinds of options for you from the standpoint of where you want to go to. So, and one of the other things is basically, in addition to the airports, you basically have the Port of Miami and Port Everglades from a cruise ship perspective. So, and from a shipping perspective. So, we've taken a couple of cruises out of Port Everglades. We've even taken a couple of cruises out of Port of Miami. So, you get an opportunity to go pretty much anywhere you want to go. One of the nice things about being down here is if you do want to go on a cruise or if you do want to take a flight, it's anywhere Central or South America or anywhere in the Caribbean, it's very, very easy to get to, very, very simple to get to. And folks are coming in and going out all of the time. So it is very, very international, and it is very, very eclectic. So it makes for a very, very neat experience for folks. With all this great weather, okay, and all this sunlight and all the great, wonderful water and beaches and stuff like that, I gotta tell you, okay, if you're not a fan of insects, okay, then you maybe need to rethink your whole idea about coming down here to South Florida. I mean, in addition to mosquitoes, in which some of them are so big, I swear they need a runway at Florida International Airport. Some of those mosquitoes are so damn big. But I mean, there's all kinds of insects that fly around at night. There's mosquitoes, there's flies, there's bees, and all that kind of fun stuff. There's just a lot of that come around. Okay, so we said, we have the mosquitoes, we have a lot of the normal insects that people see all the time down here. But one of the things that most folks assimilate, or they both assimilate with South Florida, are alligators and snakes. And while those are down here, okay, they are pretty much confined to areas around the Everglades. Now, if you're close to the Glades, you will see some snakes come out. Most of them are pythons and boas that people have let loose in there, which is a big no-no, but they still do it anyway. Some of the larger bodies of water, some of the lagoons, some of the canals, some of the bigger lakes and stuff like that will have alligators in there. But for the most part, it's kind of par for the course. It's the primary reason why the University of Florida got their name is the Gators. I mean, it's here, it's down here. So yeah. One of the things that
well, I was going to say most people don't swim in the canals.
That's true. They don't swim in the canals, and
right.
They will fish. Okay, and honestly, kind of it's the gators are kind of the apex predator in there anyway, and they kind of they do keep some of the fish population down, especially for some of the smaller fish that propagate very, very quickly and very, very frequently. Okay, one of the things that a lot of folks don't really know about and are not indigenous to this area are the iguanas. Now, some of these suckers can be easily 2.5, 3 feet long. The cute little green ones are fine when you see them out in the road or you see them scattering across the sidewalk. Okay. However, some of the bigger ones that we've seen on the golf courses, okay, some of those suckers are brown and red, okay, and they are 2 feet, sometimes 3 feet long from tip to tail. I mean, they are some big dogs, big animals.
And here's our little boy Buford. He is a 6-pound Yorkie, and there are some the iguanas that are bigger than him. So when we're out on a walk, he's always on a leash. Because yes, he will chase an iguana, so you do have to be careful. And of course, if you're walking near any body of water, and of course everybody is seeing, you don't have a little small dog like this near a body of water, and make sure you always keep him on a leash.
The other thing too is that you will see that the iguanas now. So something amusing about this, and I've only seen it once, but I had to crack up about it, is that every once in a while we do get temperatures that dip down into the high 40s or the low 50s. Iguanas are amphibian, they're reptiles. Okay, so they're part of the reptile family, and they don't really deal with cold weather. What happens is once the temperature gets below a certain point, the iguanas that live in the trees, because that's how they stay off the ground, otherwise the snakes and the gators would eat them. The iguanas that live in the trees, sometimes they get so cold that their system goes dormant, and they fall out of the trees, and they'll fall onto the ground. They'll fall into around the decks around the pool. I mean, sometimes even in some of the pools, we've heard folks saying that basically some of the bigger iguanas have fallen into their pools. Now, I have seen them fall out of trees, but I've never seen them fall into pools. That being said, now the final thing that we want to talk about as far as the insects and animals and stuff like that is every once in a while we do get a rash of jellyfish. Now, some of those jellyfishes are little teeny tiny ones that are about this big. Some of them are the Portuguese man-o'-wars, which if you're not careful can leave you with an awful sting. So even when you go to the beach, make sure that you look at the signs, look outside to make sure everything is okay. So anything from insects, mosquitoes, snakes and gators, iguanas, and sometimes even jellyfish.
Oh, and don't forget the toads.
The toads. Yeah, we do have toads that can basically, they secrete some kind of a poison that if small animals like Buford were to lick them or play with them, they could potentially die. Folks, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up sharks. We've seen one shark since we've been down here, and that was actually in the end of somebody's line, and they were trying to bring it in. It was a lemon shark. It was very, very cool. We haven't seen many sharks near the beach. We haven't seen many sharks when we're swimming. I haven't seen anything while I'm snorkeling. Believe me, I look for them. I want to see them, but we don't see them.
Well, and I have an app that tracks the sharks.
Right. Suzanne has an app that tracks where the sharks are, and we don't really see a whole lot of sharks around here. So again, we do have a wide variety of wildlife down here, some of which folks may not find to be favorable or to be to their liking.
So if you're looking to move to Fort Lauderdale or South Florida, we would absolutely love to help you find a home that fits your needs, whether it be a condo, a townhome, a single family home, a villa. Just reach out to the Morris Group. You can either reach us by text, email, or call us directly. We're the ones that answer the phone.
And for more information on South Florida and the area, Fort Lauderdale, South Florida and the areas around it, check out our video library below. Any questions, again, reach out, let us know. We can't answer the questions that we don't know about, and we would love to answer any questions that you guys may have.
And if you've got any information that you thought was helpful, please give us a like and subscribe. And until next time.